Just go ahead, talk.
Check, 1, 2, 3. I guess, do you want me to get off the phone? Here, let me mute my phone. Check, 1, 2, 3. Check. Check. Hey,
Hey, it's muted, so I'm just gonna go through.
so when it goes to live, then I guess, will I see you then at that point?
I'm just gonna point to you when it's ready to go.
Because I'm not seeing you right now.
Yeah, right. You shouldn't.
So what will I see?
I don't. What do you mean? What will you see?
Like, will I see anything, or how will I know to start? Just when this gets to zeros?
Yes, you'll see. What do you mean zeros? You see zeros?
Like right now it says WarUp on W today at 9, going live in 140, 139.
Yeah, it'll just be. Yes, correct.
It'll go to zeros, and then you're going to pop up,
Correct.
and then I'll be able to see you and hear you.
Correct.
Okay. Do you think it's a Skype?
Welcome in, wrestling fans, and once again, Greg Warnock shows that he is unable to master technology. You are now tuned into WarUp on the WPIAL, and we are going to preview the POWERade tournament coming at you in just a few days from Cannon McMillan High School. Greg, what happened to you, and are you able to? I mean, you made some adjustments from last week, but it still hasn't been working.
Yeah, I made the update on Skype, and it didn't work out for me. So maybe an internet issue on my end. Did switch internet providers from last wrestling season to this wrestling season. So apologize for that. I'm thinking that's the issue, but we'll see if we can get through a show, Jeff, and hopefully we can, and we'll get it all worked out.
Well, I certainly hope so. And this year's POWERade is going to be absolutely insane. We were just talking about that a little bit earlier, and it's just barring COVID and barring any type of issues, it's going to be the best POWERade ever, and it already should be the best POWERade ever. I have gotten word that there are some Blair Academy wrestlers that aren't going to be able to make it due to COVID, so that obviously hurts. I'm not going to give specific names out just yet, but they'll be announced probably within a day or so, or probably a day. So we are gonna be missing some studs, but regardless, this tournament this year, 2021 POWERade tournament, is on paper right now the best tournament in the history of the POWERade, which is saying a lot, right? It's been around for quite a long time, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's going to be a situation where we're going to be having a lot of different wrestlers and teams potentially back out because of COVID. But we're going to keep you updated as those things come up, and hopefully there's not too many.
Yeah, we're about 48, or not even, we're about 36 hours away from the tournament getting underway. And, you look at the field every year, it seems like it gets stronger, right? Last year may have been one of the lesser years because of the fact that so many teams could not participate due to the COVID restrictions. But, this year is stronger than any other. Starts off on Wednesday. Wrestling begins at 8 a.m. and full 2 days at Cannon McMillan High School, Wednesday and Thursday. And you look at a lot of the wrestlers, a lot of nationally ranked guys. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it all unfold. But Jeff, I guess the first thing a lot of people were wondering is was there any thought to even, with the other tournaments being canceled, you have professional teams, calling it quits for a couple of weeks, was there any thought of that? Or I don't think it was. I think Frank Volcano was full go the whole way.
Yeah, there was definitely no question whether this was going to happen or not. Look, I mean, POWERade in 2020 happened, so there was nothing that was going to stop POWERade from 2021 stopping from happening. So no, there wasn't, and I think most would just say they knew the inevitable would happen, and that we were going to lose some teams and some wrestlers, but ultimately the show must go on, right? And regardless of what happens between now and the first whistle on Wednesday, it's still going to be one of the best tournaments ever. It's going to be one of the best tournaments in the nation this year, period. It's going to rival Ironman. When you have the big four, as Frank Volcano likes to call them, Wyman Seminary, Blair Academy, Malvern Prep, and St. Ed's, when you have those four teams alone, that is going to put you on the top tier with the Ironmans of the world. So, and then you factor in you get Notre Dame Green Pond from District 11, clearly Waynesburg Central out of the WPIAL. But you look at all the teams that they're bringing in from out of state. Lockport, Illinois has been there for a number of years. They're coming in with a huge, a nice big field. You've got a couple other teams like Bergen Catholic coming in, Del Barton coming in. All these teams that are ranked in the nation. It makes for a very, very loaded field, and Pennsylvania is gonna struggle. And this is a PA Power person saying that Pennsylvania is gonna struggle, specifically the WPIAL. If the seeds hold and with everyone staying where they're at, there's gonna be a lot of weights where the Pennsylvania wrestlers that we think are really good are going to be pushed and challenged and scraping to even get on the podium. It's that deep. So, not to be, Scrooge, but it's going to be a lot of battling for Pennsylvania wrestlers when you look at the depth of this field, specifically with wrestlers that aren't Pennsylvania wrestlers. Wyman Seminary, only I'd say three of those wrestlers would you consider Pennsylvania wrestlers, both Bazakises and DJ Moring at heavyweight. The rest of them are all from, and even the Bazakises are from Florida, right? But they've lived in Pennsylvania for a number of years now. It's just going to be a lot of really tough sledding for Pennsylvania wrestlers. But that's not to say we're not going to do well, because we will. But from the team standpoint, you're going to have, it's going to be tough to repeat last year with Malvern. Sem's going to be right in there. Blair, even down a few wrestlers, is going to be right up in there. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You look at all the teams that are in there and the high quality talent involved. And one thing I saw that the first round is actually, you win and you move on. You lose, you're done. There's no wrestlebacks in that first round. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a few people reach out about that and say, hey, that's, why are they doing that? And with the size of the tournament, I mean, there's really not an option. That sucks, especially a tournament of this caliber. Like, you want to have the chance to wrestle back. So, I mean, I see both sides. I see from a tournament director side, like, if you want to keep this thing going and on time and moving, you have to implement that. But from the other standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from a wrestling standpoint, that's kind of a punch in the gut. You're saying you lose in the round of 64, like, you're not even going to have a chance to wrestle back, in this tournament. So again, I see both sides. I would like to see with 64 teams, I think it is total. Again, that kind of has fluctuated a little bit, but with that many teams there, I mean, Cannon Mac's a decent sized high school, but if you're going to have 60 plus teams, and this large of brackets, it may be, especially with the fans, I think that's what Frank liked about the convention center last year was, they could get a ton of mats down. There was a lot of good floor space. It just wasn't great for fans. So I think finding a happy balance, if the goal is to continue growing it even larger than it is, maybe it's time to start looking at other avenues. It was the Cal State tournament for a long time. It was at Trinity. It was, it's been at Canyon Mac for a number of years now. So, yeah, I don't know but size is a factor, right? I just love Canyon Mac because when it's the finals and it's on one mat, literally you feel like everybody is just on top of, the mat, and it's crazy. People sitting everywhere, standing everywhere. It's amazing, right? So I would like to see that keep going, but I also know like the teams don't have a lot of places to sit or put their stuff down. I don't know. It's just there's there's positives and negatives to both sides to where you hold it. But ultimately, yeah, the 64-man bracket, if you don't make it out of there, you're not going to make it to the have a chance to wrestle back, which does suck, and I completely understand that.
And if you lose in that round, we'd have to really look back to see if anyone's really traveled all the way back. I'm sure there's one or two. You could get a very difficult draw, right? You could draw that freshman who's a freshman phenom that they can't seed because they don't have any past credentials, and you just happen to draw them in that opening round, and now all of a sudden, you're not even going to get a chance to compete in the top 8. So there's that factor. I think the other factor too you got to think about is coaches who have that stud, maybe 2 or 3 studs, but at the same time, they want to get the rest of their guys mat time. Is it worth it to put their entire team and invest the team points that you have to invest to have most of your team maybe be one and done? So
yeah,
it's a debate.
No, it certainly is, and again, I've been in the shoes of tournament director. I've been in the shoes of having somebody who's you say, well, maybe they don't make it through the round of 64, but they're at least going to get a few matches to wrestle back. And I don't know what the answer is, like I said, but regardless, this year is just going to be absolutely insane. The talent level here is just out of this world. Over 50 plus nationally ranked wrestlers that are competing, 8 nationally ranked teams in the Fab 50. Josh Lowe of Intermat does his Fab 50, and this year there's 4 of the top 5 that are competing in the POWERade this year, which, I mean, that's insane. You got number 1 Wyoming Seminary, number 2 Blair, 3 Malvern, and 5 Del Barton, in addition to number 15 St. Ed's, 28 Waynesburg, 37 Wadsworth, Ohio, and 42 Lockport. That's just insane, right? And then throw in Notre Dame Green Pond, who I'm really high on, and I think they're going to bring in a lot of tough talent. And then you just, Connellsville. Let's not, all these different teams that you have with depth that are going to be coming in. It's going to be really, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for sure for Pennsylvania wrestlers, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see these guys battle through. With 50 plus nationally ranked guys. I mean, literally half, I don't think people understand this, and people, especially from the WPIAL, don't understand this, but half of the cadet world team is here at POWERade. Literally half of the team that went to Budapest and wrestled in the cadet world championships are here competing in POWERade. Like that just doesn't happen at places other than Ironman, Super 32, and the POWERade.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to the brackets, Jeff. Let's break them down. You got 13 weight classes here in this tournament. They seeded 1 through 12, and then from there, everyone's just kind of tossed in a hat and put into the bracket, and
well,
see
that's
where
not
everything
necessarily
shakes
true.
out.
There are so yes, there's 12 quote seeded, but they're not. There's not.
They're beyond seeded, beyond 12.
Yes, technically yes, but they're not. There's. It's not like they're just going to be thrown in at random. So it's there's more to it. I won't go into it, but there's. It's not like if you're. There are people that are between like 13 and 20 that aren't just going to get thrown in, and you're not going to have like a guy get thrown into the top seed when he's just on the cusp. So we'll just leave it at that. But yes, there are 12 seeded wrestlers.
All right, well, let's look at those 12. And inside the WPIAL at 106 pounds, you have Ty Capusta of Franklin Regional. He gets a 7 seed. Luke Willishaw of Latrobe, he gets a 9 seed. As far as Pennsylvania goes, Louis Gill of Hickory gets a number 2 seed. Aiden Smith of Notre Dame GP gets the 4 seed. And also Carter Beck of Sagertown getting an 11 seed.
Yeah, and the tale of 106 is, Louis Gill coming down from 113. And both Cooper Hilton and Louis Gill are very familiar with each other. They wrestled in the Super 32 this past fall. Cooper Hilton was able to win that match. It was for 7th place at the Super 32. But then you have Anthony Mutarelli, who I know you got to see at the Surge tournament. He was there at the Surge. Has a good year thus far, and has placed at Ironman and the Beast. Cooper Hilton is a guy from Wyoming Seminary who's from New York, but he's kind of the top dog here. But there's a lot of depth with guys like Aaron Cement from Council Rock North, who's ranked in the nation currently, but he's currently at 113, so he's number 10. Louis Gill's number 10 in the nation at 113, but him coming down, he's definitely going to be top 10 in the nation at 106. Cement from Council Rock North is 25 at 113. Cement's a guy from Jersey who moved to Council Rock North. His family relocated to Pennsylvania, and he's at Council Rock North now, undefeated coming into the weekend, but he had been up at 113. So Cooper Hilton, Anthony Mutarelli, Louis Gill, Aaron Cement are all ranked in the nation. But then you throw in Aiden Smith of Notre Dame GP, a state medalist from last year, who's back. Deion Johnson from Illinois is also there. Jared Johnston from Moeller, Ohio. And then you got Ty Capusta, who was a King of the Mountain runner-up, lost to Aaron Seidel. Luke Willishaw, a guy who I think is right. He's right there in that mix. And then there's a lot of guys here that are unseeded. Connor Smith from Seneca Valley, who I had ranked top 5 in the state coming into this year. He's unseeded, right? So it's again very, very tough. Cooper Hilton, Louis Gill, Mutarelli, those are guys I'm looking forward to. But Willishaw, Carter Beck, and Capusta are all going to be guys that I think are going to battle with some of these top guys.
Who's an unseeded guy that you're looking forward to at 106?
Yeah, I mean, Connor Smith, obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing if he can rebound after kind of stumbling a little bit at the King of the Mountain. Easton Mull from Chestnut Ridge is probably the guy I have circled. Those Chestnut Ridge guys, they know wrestling, right? And Easton Mull is a guy who I think could compete. He had a decent King of the Mountain tournament, but I think he really could burst out. Another double A guy who I think is going to be on the radar is Parker Senapal from Burgettstown. I'm really excited about him. Got to see him a lot this past year. I think Parker's a guy who's super strong. I think he's going to be able to win quite a few matches here. And push those top guys to really get into the top 8 here. But outside of that, Seth Kolb from Benton, I'm looking forward to seeing him mix it up. So, between Kolb, Senapal, and Mull from Chestnut Ridge, I'm excited to see how these double A guys shake out, because right now it's a little bit of a wide open scene there, if you will.
Yeah, Senapal is definitely one who dropped from 113 down to 106 for the POWERade tournament, for sure. Looking at 113 pounds, Tyler Chappell of Seneca Valley, he makes the drop from 120 to 113. He gets a number 3 seed. Also from the WPIAL, Cooper Hornack from Burrell, he gets a number 7 seed. And also Brandon Damai of Cannon McMillan, 11. Kai Shattuck of Waynesburg, a 12. As far as Pennsylvania goes, Brandon Wenzel of Montoursville, he gets a 4. Cale Nasdio of Williamsport, he gets a 5 seed. Hunter Robinson of Sagertown, he gets a 10 seed. So a lot of Pennsylvania power here at 113.
Yeah, there definitely is. But there's a lot of guys here who are going to be pushing the pace here. And Luke Lilladell from Wyoming Seminary, who's from Missouri, Cadet World team member this year. He was a Super 32 champion this year. In fact, he beat Vinny Kilkeary at the Super 32. He's just been, he's been lights out, right? I know Cornell Robinson at Wyoming Seminary, who's the new head coach there, is really excited about him and his development. He got to coach him on the Cadet World team this past summer. So you look at him and he's clearly the favorite in my eyes, and I think a lot of people's eyes. He's the clear favorite here. He's number 3 in the nation, but Leo DeLuca from Blair is the number 4 in the nation. So Lillidahl is 3, DeLuca is 4. So those two, no doubt are 1 and 2 here at the POWERade tournament. Now, Cale Nasdio, he comes in at number 11. Tyler Chappell, like you said, has been recently down to 113. He had been up at 120. He got beat up at the King of the Mountain. He got beat in the Cumber Valley Kickoff Classic to Jack Caruso, but he was a runner-up here last year at POWERade, losing to Jack Consiglio. Him being down at 113 is really going to, show us where he's at, right? Because he was undersized for 120, but him being at 113 now really changes the game. Do I think he's going to be able to go with a guy like Lillidahl? Probably not. Lillidahl's on a different level. I just think he's a different cat. DeLuca, same thing. Like he's a different level of good. But him and Brandon Wenzel from Montorzo, in fact, those two wrestled at our event True Power with Chappell getting that win there. They're going to battle. Cale Nasdio, he's going to battle. Cooper Hornack did not have a good. He did not have a great King of the Mountain tournament up at 120. So him coming down to 113 is a good thing. But then you throw in guys like Tommy Link from Malvern, Hunter Robeson from Sagertown, a 5th place finisher last year, had a win over Cooper Hornack last year. Finishes not where he wanted to in the state tournament, but he's back at 113. He's going to make a lot of noise too, and he's only a 10th seed, right? So. And then that's not even scratching the surface to go through all the unseeded wrestlers that are going to really turn some heads. We got you back, Greg. We got you back. I swear
I don't know what's going on.
Your hamster is working overtime right now.
This, Jeff, I apologize.
Your hamster is working serious overtime right now because I don't know what is happening.
Absolutely.
You've got to get this sorted
I
out.
apologize.
You're going to be fired.
Obviously. Yeah, I know. I understand. I'm on probation now, I think, at this point.
You certainly are. Yes. 113, and I don't know where I lost you at, but this is going to be completely, bonkers when you look at all the guys that aren't even in the top 12 here. And I was mentioning Hunter Robeson from Sagertown State medalist last year. He's a 10th seed, right? But then you have Brandon Damai from Canamac, who's an 11th, Kai Sheptick. But you look at the top. Lillidahl is one of the best in the nation for a reason, right? A world team member. So it's going to be very tough for our Pennsylvania wrestlers to break through and beat one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as some other guys that are unranked, I apologize if you may have mentioned some of these, but one guy that definitely jumps out, Gage Patero of Faith Christian.
Yeah, I'm big on Gage Patero. We got to see him at True Power, and we got to see him at the Surge. He's super tough. He was a Beast of the East medalist last weekend, 120 pounds. He's down to 113. he's gonna knock off a lot of people. He's gonna come through and beat a lot of tough guys. So I'm excited to see him make it here at the POWERade at 113, kind of make his debut. Lilladal, as I mentioned, was a Super 32 champion this past fall. He beat Vinny Kilkiri. He was a Cadet World silver medalist, so he made the world team, but also won a silver medal there. Pan Am champion, and was a Missouri State champion before coming to Wyoming Seminary. I really like, his path, but looking at some of the other guys, like you said, Gage Botero, Tony Burke from Council Rock North, state qualifier. I think he's going to battle with some of the top guys, from Pennsylvania at least, that is. And Jack Gonzalez from Quaker Valley, he's had a really good year this year thus far. So, is he going to be able to win a few matches? But again, we're talking about guys that aren't even going to be, they may not even make the round of 16, right? There's so many good guys here that there's just landmines everywhere. In addition to Gage Botero, I'm really looking forward to seeing Evan Petrovich from Connellsville, who we got to see at the Surge. He had a good tournament there, and he's been one of the top freshmen in the WPIAL this year. So, Gage Botero is probably the freshman that has the most chance of getting on the podium outside of the seeded wrestlers in Ortega and DeLuca. But this is Luke Lilladal's weight. There's no doubt about it. This is his weight. It's just a matter of who's going to push him.
120 pounds, Vinny Kilkiri of Latrobe, he gets a number 2 seed. Troy Homan of Penn Trafford, a number 5. Joe Simone of Waynesburg gets a number 7 seed. As far as the rest of PA, Camden Williams of Manheim Township, he gets the 3. Also from Pennsylvania, you have Notre Dame GP's Adam Schweitzer. He gets a 10 seed. Chase Burke of Benton, 11 seed. Derek Keene of Central Mountain, a 12 seed. And you have at the top Mark Anthony McGowan of Blair Academy, obviously one of the best in the nation. So do you think you're going to see a Kilkiri Williams and potential winner gets McGowan?
I'd like that. I would like a Williams and Kilkiri rematch, because I'm sure Kilkiri wants that. I'm sure Vinny wants that match, because that match didn't go his way last time they wrestled. Williams kind of put it on him at the Super Regional tournament. So, and of course, Vinny then loses in the semifinals to Jack Caruso. Camden Williams doesn't come close to making weight. So it's just, I'm sure they both want that match. But then let's not forget Jack Consiglio from Malvern Prep. He's sitting at the number 4 seed. Jack was a returning POWERade champion. He beat Tyler Chappell in the finals last year. He and Kilkiri battled in Fargo this past summer. He was beating Vinny Kilkiri when Kilkiri pinned him. Jack Consiglio is very good, so he should be in that conversation as well, those top 4. And this is not even mentioning Troy Homan from Penn Trafford, who's going to NC State. Now, Troy Homan is certainly not to the level of Vinny Kilkiri, or not even McGowan. However, he's right there with the rest of them. He finished 4th in the state, right behind Vinny Kilkiri. Mark Anthony McGowan, what's not to say about him? He's won literally everything he's wrestled in. He won a Cadet World Championship title, so he's one of a few guys here that have a Cadet World Championship to their name already. Mark Anthony McGowan is one of those guys. He's won the Ironman. He beat Mac Church in the Ironman finals. He's won Beast of the East. He just won it this past weekend. He's number 1 in the nation for a reason. He's one of the best ever. So yes, I would love to see a Vinny Kilkiri and Camden Williams rematch, and winner gets Mark Anthony McGowan. But I'm not confident in saying that, because there's landmines literally everywhere. Consiglio, Jackson Joy from Wadsworth, Joe Simone, who was a runner-up last year to Kilkiri, is back this year. He was able to get down to 120. And that's not even looking at the guys that aren't seeded. Chase Burke, Derek Keene, both state medalists, that are seeded but are there. There's a lot of guys here at 120 pounds that are going to be knocking on the door and looking to knock some people off.
Who are some of those names that you're looking at right now?
Well, the first name that jumps out at me is Asher Cunningham from State College. Freshman, obviously the son of Casey Cunningham, a longtime coach at Penn State. Asher's been wrestling lights out. We got to see him at the Surge, and he looked really good there, but he's really kicked it up to another notch. I'm excited to see how he's going to scrap with some of these older, more accomplished wrestlers, because Mark Anthony McGowan was a freshman at one time, and he had to knock off guys. Vinny Kilkiri, same thing. So Asher Cunningham is definitely a guy I'm keeping an eye on. Another freshman is David Kennedy from Montoursville. Keep an eye on him. He's very tough. He and Brandon Wenzel were in the same weight at Top Hat, and David Kennedy finished very high on the podium, as did Brandon Wenzel. But with Wenzel going down to 13, it's his spot now at 120. Jacob Layton from Connellsville, I would keep an eye on him as well. And Jacob Haupt from Cannon Mac. A big fan of Jacob Haupt. He wrestled in the Surge, wrestled very well at the Surge. In fact, he finished ahead of Mason Ziegler, state medalist, and Tyler Chappell. So, he's a guy who I expect to do well here. Even though he's on the outside kind of looking in, I think he's a guy that's really going to have, a chance to break out, if you will.
126 pounds from the WPIAL, Dylan Coy of North Allegheny. He gets a number 5 seed. Maddox Shaw of Thomas Jefferson. He gets a 7 seed. And Andrew Binney of Cannon McMillan, all the way from 106 to 126. He gets the number 10 seed, the number 12 seed in this tournament. Also from PA, Jacob Van D of Erie Prep, a number 2. Dalton Perry of Central Mountain, a number 3. And Fort LaBeouf's JoJo Prohibition, he gets a number 10 seed here at 126. A lot of the conversation for me, I mean, you look at that number 3 seed, that freshman Dalton Perry. What do you think, Jeff? Do you think he can get a POWERade title here?
Well, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, Dalton Perry, he's one of the best in the nation. I mean, he finished 4th in the POWERade tournament. 120 pounds. Vincent Robinson is really tough though. He himself was 4th at the Super 32 this past year at 126 pounds. Dalton Perry was down at 120. Dalton Perry won the Surge tournament. He's one of the best. He was our top incoming freshman this year. So certainly I think he's able to win a title here. No doubt about it. He comes in ranked number 6 in the nation. Vincent Robinson is number 2 in the nation at 126 pounds. Van D is number 8. Nick O'Neill from Malvern Prep is number 13. And Matty Lopez from Blair is number 15. So you've got 5 guys all ranked in the top 15 in the nation competing at 126 pounds in the POWERade tournament. The question for me is I want to see that 2 versus 3. I got to see Van D versus Dalton Perry. Because Van D doesn't always get the respect that I think he deserves. And Van D was a runner-up to Kilkiri in the state tournament. Last year he wins it. But people still, I heard a lot of people still saying like, well, Kilkiri got screwed against Jack Russo, so it's not a real, I heard legitimate people say that Van D, like, it's not that big of a deal. Now, sure, he did lose to Camden Williams in the Super Regional, but so did Kilkiri. So at the end of the day, he showed up, made weight, he won all his matches, and he's a state champion, right?
That's it. That's all you need to do.
That's all you need to do, right? Van D, on the other hand, I don't know where he's at because we haven't seen Cathedral Prep much this year. They're at the Rambler Duels, and we just haven't seen him quite yet be pushed. Perry, we saw him win a King of the Mountain tournament, which he absolutely dominated, by the way. And then also he won a Top Hat tournament. So we've seen him at 2 tournaments where we were able to really gauge him. One, I think he's feeling good at 126. I think he's getting bigger, and I think he's not cutting a ton of weight, so I think he feels good there, and I think that's going to help him in a tournament like this where a lot of guys are coming down to 128 for the first time. I think Dalton's just kind of feeling good. But Vincent Robinson from Illinois is the real deal. Like he's no joke. But you can't have Dalton Perry and Van D not be in that conversation. They have to be in that conversation. And Nick O'Neill is a killer. Man, that kid is just, he can pin anybody. He can beat anybody on any given day. He's one of the most dangerous wrestlers in Pennsylvania. I wouldn't want to wrestle him. Nick O'Neill is very tough. So him having the 4th seed really sets up a potential nice semifinal with him and Robinson. But let's not even forget. I mean, again, 26 we've not even scratched the surface yet, because we haven't even talked about Dylan Coy of North Allegheny, a guy who has a win over Mac Church. Yes, he hasn't been on the podium in Hershey, but he's been really close. He just won the Panther Holiday Classic in convincing fashion. Matty Lopez from Blair is right there in the best of the nation, obviously being ranked in the top 15. Maddox Shaw from Thomas Jefferson is right there with Dalton Perry. I would put them neck and neck. I mean, they've split matches at the PJW tournament. He actually finished higher than Dalton Perry did at Fargo this year. So, look at all the Fargo All-Americans we have in the POWERade. We got 2 of them here at 126 with Maddox Shaw and Dalton Perry. JoJo Shabishin coming in as a returning state medalist. He's going to be pushed. There's no doubt about it. He's going to be pushed. And Andrew Benny, he's coming up from 106. How good is he going to be at 126, up 20 pounds? So, the story here for me is, can we get a Van D and Perry match, 2 Northwest Regional AAA wrestlers going head to head? That kind of paints the picture of where we're going to be at in the postseason, because those two they could legitimately meet for a regional and a state title 2 weeks in a row. Now, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be a highlight, a preview, I guess, of what's to come here in the upcoming postseason. But you look at all the guys that are unseeded, and there's several good names here once again. Not a surprise with how deep this tournament is, but who are some names you're excited about?
Well, I mean, it's an endless list of names. Vince Bozakis from Wyoming Seminary. He's got to be one of the top guys here. That's going to be in the mix for a medal here. I would argue that he's probably going to be top 8 for sure, just based on his body of work. Gavin Suika is also here. Devin Magro from Bishop McCourt, a guy who has a win over Dylan Coy at the Surge tournament, lost to him at the Panther Holiday Classic, but he finished 3rd there, and it was a tough weight class. So Magro was a runner-up to Dalton Perry in the Surge finals. So I think Devin Magro is a guy you can't look past either. You got Kobe Burkett from Chestnut Ridge, Gabe Brugeri from Collinsville, who I really like. Another freshman who I think you should keep an eye on is Chase Hantz from Faith Christian Academy. He's going to be one of several Faith Christian Academy wrestlers that we're talking about. He's a son of former Upper Perk head coach Tom Hantz, who's won a couple state championships for Upper Perk. Chase is that 126. I really like his upside. Ethan Lieben from Hempfield, again, another guy who's coming down from 32 to 26. He's got to be in the conversation of outside, guys that are looking to break in and break through. And then let's not forget about Xander Fatoris, an Arizona State champion who is at Waynesburg now and kind of has been flying on the radio, gets lost in the shuffle with Mac Church and Rocco Welsh, but he's here grinding. So 126 is insane. I mean, I'm going to say that a lot this evening because most of these weights are insane, but 26 it's stacked.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You just look, it's very top heavy, right, with those names, Robinson, Van D, Perry, O'Neill, and Coy, and going on down. But then it's just deep. It's very, very deep. You didn't even mention guys like Gavin Suika of Burgestown, who was a POWERade medalist last year. Ryan Klingensmith of Kiski, who's always a tough out no matter anytime you wrestle him. So it's just very deep weight class in addition to the countless names that you had mentioned. 132 pounds for the WPIAL. Waynesburg's Mac Church comes in as a number 2 seed in this one. Chad Ozias of Connellsville comes in at number 7. And for the Pennsylvania, Brandon Chaletzos of Notre Dame GP, he comes in as a number 6 seed. Nick Bozakis of Wyoming Seminary, since you mentioned, technically a PA guy, he comes in as the number 1 seed in this one. Callum Bowman of Chestnut Ridge, a 9. Ethan Kolb of Benton, 10. And Braden Bauer of Williamsport, an 11.
Yeah, I mean, 132, it doesn't get any easier. My gosh. Nick Bozakis is looking for his first title, since 2017, right? when he was an 8th grader from Lake Highland Prep, when a lot of these kids were, you know, I mean, what was Dalton Perry doing in 2017? Dalton Perry was like 10, you know. He was, I mean, Nick Bozakis was in 8th grade, and he won a POWERade title, and he dominated it. He beat Bo Bayless from Reynolds in the finals there, and just dominated it. You know, Nick Bozakis is the real deal. He's going to Ohio State. He's won everything. You know, he's won the Super 32 3 times. He's won Ironman. You know, he's won the POWERade. He lost in the POWERade finals by DQ when he dropped Curtis Phipps. When he did a mat return on him, you know, I think he probably would have won that match. So he probably was looking at a 3-timer. But you know, he's coming back for a second one. And then you throw in Mac Church, right? Mac Church comes in ranked number 5 in the nation. He's going to Virginia Tech. Bozakis is going to Ohio State, which Ohio State's very well represented here at the POWERade tournament. Bozakis is the clear favorite, but Mac Church is right there. A guy who I'm really excited about is Cameron Catcherbone from New York, and this is a guy who Pennsylvania wrestling fans should know because his father, Jeff, was a 2-time state champion for Harbor Creek. Now, Jeff Catcherbone went to Michigan. I believe he was a 3-time All-American. He was at least a 1 or 2-time All-American for Michigan. In fact, Cameron is committed to Michigan. Cameron wrestled back at the Super 32. He lost early in the Super 32 at 132 pounds, came back to place 3rd. So Mac Church injury defaulted to 6. Bozakis won Super 32 at 132. Cameron Catcherbone came back to finish 3rd there. Catcherbone he's the real deal. I've got to see him a few times. Obviously, having a dad like Jeff, he's probably pretty good and pretty well prepared to come into the POWERade tournament. I know he's excited to compete here against some of these top guys here. But then you have Tyler Velasquez from Del Barton, who's really tough. You know, has been in the national ranks for quite a while. He's currently number 11 in the nation by Mat Scouts. Cameron Catcherbone was number 6 at 145, but he's down to 132, where I would assume he would be top 5. Spencer Barnhart from Malvern Prep, a guy we got to see at the Surge and True Power. He's number 17 in the nation. And Braden Bauer from Williamsport is number 25 in the nation, and he's at a 9 seed. You know, Brandon Kletzos from Notre Dame GP didn't have a great Beast of the East tournament, but he was a state runner-up last year to Jackson Arrington. I mean, Kletzos is he's been around for, it seems like, forever. You know, he's one of the best in the state. So him sitting there at the number 6 seed is like, man, who's he going to potentially knock off, you know, coming into the POWERade? And then you have Chad Ozias, another returning state medalist from Connellsville. It's just like the list goes on and on. Callan Bowman, a state medalist, state runner-up. You know, he was a state runner-up. He's at 10. Ethan Kolb, another state medalist. And again, we haven't even talked about some of the guys that are unseeded coming into here. But the story for me is Nick Bozakis trying to win his 2nd POWERade title and his first since 2017 when he was an 8th grader at Lake Highland Prep, when a lot of these guys were just in you know, Pampers still.
And you look at those guys you mentioned that are unseeded and what guys may come out. You know, you have Joey Senapal from Burgestown. You got Nico Farrow from Burrell. Luke Simcox from Central Mountain. He's going to be unseeded coming into this one. Look for Luke Simcox to make a lot of noise here in this tournament. The names just go on and on, Jeff. Who else are you looking at as far as Blake Rainier of Trinity? Who are some names that you're looking at?
Yeah, Blake Rainier is definitely a guy who I'm looking forward to seeing compete here. But also a guy like Eli Carr from Hempfield, a sophomore. He was at Kiski Prep last year. He's now at Hempfield. He's had a good year thus far. Cody Wagner for Faith Christian. But Luke Simcox is the guy. I mean, he really looked good at King of the Mountain. Like, I mean, he was right there with Braden Bauer, and they wrestled a few times in the past. So he's a guy who I think is going to push to finish in the top 8 for sure. Blaze Vogel from Montoursville, another freshman from Montoursville that I really like. But yeah, I mean, there's just again, it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's just it's deep, and especially at the top here, it's going to be hard to fathom, who actually comes out and finishes in the top here. Because if you look at it, a lot of these guys have former POWERade, medalists to their name. All these guys have finished in the POWERade, at least top two. Bazakis winning it, finishing runner-up. Mac Church was runner-up last year to Mason Gibson, who was not competing because he's injured. Mac Church won it as a freshman at 106, beating Briar Priest, who we're going to talk about at the next weight class. So, a lot of these guys have big match experience. It's just a matter of who comes out on top. I can't wait to see, who comes out at 132.
138 pounds. You mentioned Briar Priest of Hempfield. He gets the top seed in the weight class, and he's followed by 4 New Jersey guys at 2, 3, 4, and 5. Colton Stone King of Waynesburg, he grabs a number 7 seed. Jamison Pokliembo of Mount Pleasant, he gets a number 10 seed in this one. Others from PA, Pearson Manville State College, he gets a 6. Connor Saylor of Hickory, he gets an 8th seed. Who do you like here in this weight class?
Yeah, I mean, Briar's going to have his hands full with Jersey. I mean, all of Jersey's coming for him because you've got literally, three of the top guys from Jersey all here. Kangro from Bergen Catholic is super tough. I think Alex Amedia is good. He's been right there. But Pearson Manville is the guy I kind of got circled here to watch out for. Pearson's down from 145. The Manvilles know how to wrestle, and they know how to wrestle at POWERade. We've seen that Mason Manville wrestled at POWERade and beat Hayden Hidley from Mifflin County, and Carson Manville got a win here over I forget Joey Silva, I believe, in the finals. So the Manvilles know how to wrestle at the POWERade tournament. So he's one I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on because I think he can go with all the top guys here. In fact, you look at the rankings, the current Matt Scout rankings, national rankings. Kai Owen from Wyoming Seminary, who comes in as the 11th seed, he's ranked number 18 in the nation at 138. Pearson Manville is ranked number 20 at 145, and PJ, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, Greg. How would you pronounce that? Aginsanti is how I kind of see it. Aginsanti from Blair. He's a sophomore. He's number 25 in the nation. I think this is more wide open than people think. Priest, being a returning, he was a finalist 2 years ago. He was a medalist last year, but winning that state championship last year really propelled him to the top. But he's going to be tested. He really is, from his own guys from Pennsylvania, Manville, Stone King, Connor Saylor. I like Alizir Alicia from Manheim Township a lot. I got to see him at the Surge. And that's not even touching the folks that are not in the top 12 either. So it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of, I think this is way more open than it has been in the last couple weights where you have like the top 2 or 3 guys. I think this is a little bit more wide open.
Yeah, you may not get top 2, may not get top 3 or 4 even, getting into the finals. It could be a 5 versus 6, or a 12 versus 7. I mean, it's just everyone has a shot here. Like you said, is there anyone who's not in that top 12 that you're looking at?
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a ton in the not in the top 12.
There's a ton in everyone. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely a few. 2 freshmen jump off at the page of me right away. Lonzy Velma from Connellsville. We got to see him again at the Surge. He's dropped down to 138. He is at 145 for Eastern area. Also Max Steen from Faith Christian Academy. He's right now ranked top 10 in the state as a freshman in Dubway. He's a freshman. I really like him. I think he's got a lot of poise and I think potential to bust open some brackets here. Easton Toth from Forest Hills, another guy who's I feel like has been around forever. He's certainly capable of hanging with the top 12 guys for sure. Especially when you look at Poklembo, like I think he's right there with him. Connor Saylor, I think he may be a little bit better, but not too far ahead. So looking at him, Sean Paul O'Donnell from Malvern Prep is another guy that I think is probably going to do well here. So, and Bodie Marlowe from Thomas Jefferson, another freshman that I'm pretty high on here, down at 138. So it's, again, no shortage of talent between seniors and freshmen, and all in between. There's just a lot of talent that is close bunched together, right? You don't have the top tier guys, if you will, the top ranked guys in the nation, but you have a lot of guys that are close. And that's why I like 38, because really I think you can pick probably 4 or 5 guys that legitimately could win this. On Thursday night. I think they all could potentially win it.
145 pounds for the WPIAL. Finn Solomon of Franklin Regional, he gets a number 2 seed. Lucas Capusta of Hempfield, he gets a number 7 seed. Ty Waters of West Allegheny, a 10. Luke Gabig of Mount Pleasant, a number 11 seed. Also from Pennsylvania, you got Riley Bauer of Williamsport. He gets a number 5 seed. Eric Alderfer of Faith Christian, he gets a number 9 seed in this one. Top 12, again, solid, as is every other weight class, but should be fun to see. Who do you like in this weight class?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Mayor Shapiro is the clear-cut favorite here. He's number 2 in the nation, was a cadet world champion. So, again, I said half of the cadet world team is here at the POWERade tournament, which is insane to think about, but half of them are here. We'll talk about Jimmy Mullen up at heavyweight, but he was on the cadet world team, was a cadet world silver medalist. Shapiro was a cadet world champion, so he won a title, as did Bo Bassett. He was a national prep runner-up to Nick Bozakis in 2020. Obviously, the national prep tournament did not happen last year, or per se the officially sanctioned one didn't happen last year. Shapiro comes in ranked number 2 in the nation, so Finn Solomon's he's gonna be there. I think Finn Solomon hasn't. And when I talked to him at the Westmoreland County the Sports Media Day with Westmoreland Sports Network, he said POWERade hadn't been kind to him, and it hadn't, because he'd finished 6th twice, lost to Ty Simmerman one year, beat him the next week at County. So I know, and he lost this past weekend at King of Mountain a few weeks ago. He lost to Jude Swisher. So he's coming off a loss, and I think he's looking to rebound, and no better way to do that than take out a cadet world champion here. But we don't want to put the cart before the horse, because there's a lot of guys here that I think could push him. Reed Fulmer is a guy who I really like, and Riley Bauer. The Bauer twins are 2 of the guys who have been very close for a long time. They're both going to Bucknell. And a guy who people always forget about is Ty Waters from West Allegheny. The guy can just straight up wrestle, and wrestle hard. He's a physical wrestler. He wrestles just at a high pace, and him being up at 145, I was very impressed with him at the Super 32. And I think he's going to push. I think he could finish top 3 for sure. I really do. I think Ty Waters can finish top 3. And I think he can push Finn Solomon, to be honest with you. But Mayor Shapiro is head and shoulders above the field here. He comes in ranked number 2 in the nation, as I said. Finn Solomon, for his efforts, being a state champion from last year from Pennsylvania, he's ranked number 19 in the nation. So I think it just shows he's there. He's not quite in that top 10, right? Cross Walzinski from Del Barton, he's number 22, and Will Henkel from Blair Academy is number 24. He's a freshman, so not a lot of tape on him. But from a double-A battle, Eric Alderfer is a state medalist last year, had a good state tournament. Jacob Guilfoyle from Bishop McDevitt, also a guy who I want to keep an eye on. I know I wasn't supposed to talk about the guys who aren't seeded, but Jake Guilfoyle is definitely one of them. He's currently ranked number 3 in the state.
Yeah, and you look at going back to Ty Waters for a second. If the seeds hold true, right, no changes to the top 12 seeds, you're going to see a WPIAL matchup, a 7 versus 10 in the round of 16. You're going to have Waters taking on Lucas Capusta. Winner of that going into the number 2 seed, Finn Sullivan. So you're going to see a pair of WPIAL matchups to get a semifinalist out of the bottom half of that bracket. So it should be a lot of fun to see. Yeah, you mentioned some of those guys that are unseeded, and you mentioned one already. But who else do you like that could bust some brackets?
Yeah, I mean, outside of, so 45 is certainly not as deep as some of the other brackets we talked about. There's no doubt about it, but there's still a lot of talent here. Obviously, we saw some of the top talent. Kane Kettering from Reynolds, I think he should have a good tournament. Reynolds went out to the Ironman, and Reynolds is not the same Reynolds as they have been in the past couple of years. Dominic Granaham from Benton, expecting him to win a few matches for sure. Chad Jesko is getting into the lineup for Collinsville after Lonzy dropped down. Ethan Connor, a guy who, I wouldn't look past, he's been able to win a few matches here before. So yeah, you look at the top, and outside of Guilfoyle, all these other guys are looking to knock off a seeded wrestler to earn their spot in some of the rankings. Because outside of that, this is a very top-heavy bracket with Shapiro and Finn Sullivan, and then you got another bracket, or another tier, you will, with Bauer, Fulmer, Alderfer, Capusta, and Waters, and Gay Big, from Mount Pleasant, I think is in that mix as well. So, 45, while it may not have the depth that we see at like 26 or 20, it's still a pretty darn good bracket.
Yeah, no doubt, especially when you have 12 solid guys, and only 8 are getting a medal. And you mentioned Guilfoyle, Kane Kettering. I mean, you got at least a good solid 16, and obviously, if not more, based on how those other guys shake out. 152 pounds for the WPIAL, Chase Kranitz of Norwin. He gets a 6 seed. Dylan Evans of Chartiers Valley. He is a 7 seed. Jack Pletcher of Latrobe, a 10. Nico Taddy of West Allegheny, 11. Keelan Laffey of Pine Richland, a 12. Also from PA, we got Jackson Arrington of Forest Hills. He is the top seed in this weight class, but a lot of WPIAL depth here in 152 pounds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of WPIAL power here, but I'm looking at the rest of the the guys here, and the story is Jackson Arrington, and can he repeat? Because he absolutely dominated last year. I mean, let's not forget he major decisioned Dylan Chappell, a 3-time state finalist from Seneca Valley, in the finals of POWERade last year. Jackson's just been unbelievable. He won at Flows Who's number 1. He was a runner-up at the Super 32 this past fall. That was a tough match that he had there with Cody Chittum. But he's one of the best in the nation for a reason, right? He comes in ranked number 3 in the nation. So I really like his chances of repeating here. I think he's definitely the guy that everyone's going to be chasing. But Joe Seeley from Wyoming Seminary, he's not far behind. He's number 6 in the nation right now. And I think, depending on how things shake out with COVID and if everyone's able to make it, I really do think that he's going to have a good tournament, as is, Dylan Evans. Dylan Evans comes in ranked number 12 in the nation. He doesn't have quite the pedigree as a guy like Jackson Arrington. He lost him in the finals of King of Mountain last weekend, but Jackson Arrington's a guy who wrestled all the way back for 3rd at the at Fargo, which is the toughest tournament in the nation. And at the Super 32, he wrestled all the way back for 5th. He's right there. He's right there with some of the top guys. But also in that bracket, you look
a little
at the
underseeded then, right?
I mean, maybe, yeah, I would say so. But then again, you look at, the way the POWERade seeded, past performances at POWERade, they have a big weight. Your state place finish has a big weight. So, I mean, I think it's fair where he's at, but I think he's gonna finish above a seed. That's just based on his national results over the summer and of thus far. You don't finish 5th in the Super 32 and not be considered one of the best in the nation, right? That just doesn't happen. And you look at the guys from this bracket that were at the Super 32 at 145 pounds, Jackson Arrington was the runner-up. Richard Fenelon from Maryland, from McDonough School, he was 4th. Dylan Evans was 5th. So you've got 3 guys that all placed at the Super 32, arguably the toughest folk style tournament in the nation. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't seated correctly. I'm just saying, you look at the other guys here, I really do think he could finish above his seed. Even though he comes in as the 7th seed, I think he can beat a guy like Kranitz, or I think he can beat a guy like Reiki from West Virginia, who's good. But there's, again, like we talked about 132, there's so many landmines here, right? You got Evan Mag from Notre Dame Green Pond, who had a great Beast of the East tournament last weekend. Jack Pletcher from Latrobe, who is continuing to improve and get better every year. Nico Taddy, who is back for West Allegheny, was a state medalist at 113, comes back after a year off with an injury, and he's back at 152. I mean, he's right in the mix. So the thing about 152, though, is not the guys seated. We know about the guys seated in the top 12. It's the guys outside of there that I think are going to be very interesting to see how they shake out and where they get placed in the bracket.
Well, let's talk a little bit about them. Who are some of the highlight wrestlers you're looking at?
Well, one of the first guys is Andrew Christie from Bishop McDevitt in District 3. Andrew Christie's a guy who's at New Oxford. He's been at the Surge last 2 years. He was a runner-up, and he's wrestled really well for Bishop McDevitt since going there. Has faced some tough competition wrestling at the Cumberland Valley Kickoff Classic, but he's definitely one that I'm watching. Nick Kunstek from Blair Academy, a sophomore. Kunstek was one of the top incoming freshmen last year with Rune Lawrence and Mason Gibson. Obviously the preps didn't really have much of a season at all. Kunstek is, he's nationally going to be one of the best when it's all said and done. So him being in here is really going to throw a wrench into things. Griffin Walliser of Central Mountain, I also think is going to be able to hang with some guys seated number 8 through 12. Cayman Smith from Cathedral Prep, also a guy I'm looking forward to seeing and seeing how he can hang, because those Erie Prep guys, again, they kind of start the season late like Southern Columbia does, because their football team normally is always in the playoffs. The list can go on and on. Travis Stipetich from North Allegheny, really high on him as well. It's outside of those, man, it's going to be tough to garner any wins. Connor McChesney from Fort LaBeouf is not bad at all, but it's hard. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. There's not a lot of wiggle room between the seeded 12 and then those other, I would say 13 to 20 that are going to be there. It's going to be tough.
160 pounds, your top seed from Laurel is Grant McKay. Also, you have Enzo Morlacchi of Kiski. He's a number 5. Jared Kessler of Connellsville. He is a number 7. Sean Taylor of West Allegheny. He is an 11 seed. Also from Pennsylvania, you have Carter Gill of Hickory. He comes in at number 8. Holden Garcia of Notre Dame GP. He is at number 9. How do you see 160 shaking out?
It's hard to believe that Grant McKay was 5th at the POWERade last year, right?
Yeah.
Does that kind of blow your mind that he was 5th last year at the POWERade tournament? But that was a super deep weight class, right?
It's loaded.
Yeah.
So top heavy.
Very, very, very top heavy, right? But he won a state title, right? He's a junior. He's heading to Pittsburgh. He was 5th last year. This year he is the top seed. And you look at the national rankings at 160 pounds. I think it's fair where he's at, no doubt. I think Grant McKay, on a national level, he's competed well. He's had some bumps. Like, he certainly hasn't broken out like I think he wanted to on the national scene, but he has wins over a lot of really tough guys in the nation. For that, he comes in ranked number 11th in the nation. Hunter Mays from Howell, New Jersey is number 4 in the nation. Hunter Mays was from Pennsylvania, went to Jersey, came back, then went to Jersey. He won a state title he's really broke out onto the scene after winning a Jersey State title last year. Hunter Mays is a guy who wrestled at Conowagon from District 1 when he was in Pennsylvania. He's number 4 in the nation. Enzo Merlacchi is number 12 in the nation. That's insane thinking Enzo Merlacchi does not have he's never made it to a state tournament. Like, I mean, again, kind of like Grant McKay finishing 5th at POWERade last year. Merlacchi is a returning champion, right? He won the POWERade last year. He beat Chase Krantz last year. He's a returning POWERade champion, and he's seated 5th. And McKay, who finished 5th at POWERade last year, is seated 1st, right? But Merlacchi is just, he hasn't done the postseason accomplishments like some of these other guys have. Merlacchi has a win over Jared Kessler of Connellsville, right? A guy who's also going to Pitt, a guy who is a 2-time state medalist already. He's been right there with the top guys last year with AHR and Rocco Welsh. He's been right in the mix. He's your 7th seed. And that's, to me, like, that shows how deep this weight class is. So you look at how it works in the WPIAL is Enzo Merlacchi beat Jared Kessler. Kessler beat Sean Taylor. The next week, Sean Taylor then beats Enzo Merlacchi. So, it's like you have a 3-horse race here between sophomore Sean Taylor, who I'm really excited about, Jared Kessler, who lost to Merlacchi but, has that win over Taylor. And then throw in a guy like Nick Fay from Bergen Catholic, who was at Wyoming Seminary last year. He's again one of the guys who I think can really knock some people out. He comes in not ranked in the nation, but I think now that he's in the lineup, I think he will make it into the rankings. There's a total of 7 guys here ranked in the nation. Mays being the top, number 4, McKay 11, Merlacchi 12, Kessler 13, Simon Ruiz from Del Barton 15, Lorenzo Norman from Blair Academy is number 19, and Carter Schubert from Wyoming Seminary is number 20. So again, that is just, it's pretty loaded when you look at that from the national ranking standpoint. And again, that's not even going into some of the guys who weren't in the top 6 seeds.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy to think Jared Kessler comes into this as a number 7 seed when you look at that bracket that he had last year, and it was just a bracket we talked about for consecutive weeks because in the super region as well as the state tournament, the top 4 were the top 4. You had AHR, Rocco Welsh, Kessler, and then Panero Johnson thrown into that mix as well for the super region. Kessler, a guy who was close to beating Rocco Welsh several times. So, I mean,
yeah, he was.
It's hard to believe he's only a 7 seed in this tournament, but that's just how deep it is and how talented it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look back at how much talent there really is here. When Holden Garcia, who's been in the national ranks, he's your 9th seed, right? It's crazy, right? It's very deep. And you look at some of the other guys that are competing that aren't in the top 12. Chris Beatty from Chartiers Valley. I really like him a lot. He's a guy who just loves to compete, and it doesn't matter who or what or where he wants to wrestle. He's a guy who I think is probably going to do well here. Jack Moyer from Chestnut Ridge, another guy who I'm pretty excited to see him compete. Faith Christian Academy has there's loaded with young talent. We talked about Gage Botero, Chase Haunts. But Luke Sigalski from Faith Christian is really good. He's a guy who I got to see a few times, and I'm not sure how he's going to do here because this is a different level of good when it comes to the level of talent. But I think he could potentially knock off some guys that he is not supposed to, if you will. Dustin Finn from Forest Hills as well, another guy I'm going to keep an eye on. It's a very evenly mixed, and I like the variety of talent here. Even Roman Maroney from Williamsport, I think, is very solid. So Pennsylvania is Lorenzo Norman. I like that he's the 2 seed because that puts him and Hunter Mays on the same side. I'd rather see Mays and Norman go at it in the semifinals and McKay and Fay go at it, and then potentially setting up Merlacchi, Kessler, Taylor, getting one of them on one another again to see who wins that rubber match.
172 pounds, Rocco Welsh of Waynesburg. He's your number 2 seed. Rune Lawrence of Fraser, he gets a number 5 seed. And also Matthew Furman of Cannon McMillan, a number 12 seed. Outside NPA, you also have Nolan Lear of Benton, a 10. Luke Moore of Chestnut Ridge, an 11. Rocco Welsh, getting a number 2 seed. He's got Gabe Arnold of Wyoming Center right there above him. But, Rune Lawrence of Fraser wins a state title as a freshman. He was a POWERade runner-up, and he gets a 5 seed. I mean, that just tells you how top-heavy this one is.
And I perfectly agree with him as a 5 seed. I mean, and that's no disrespect to Rune, but that's just where he is, right? I mean, that shows you 172, in my opinion, is the deepest weight class. You've got numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 20 all in the nation, ranked top 10. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those in the top 10 here at 172. 172 is by far, I think, the deepest weight class. And Gabe Arnold is a large reason behind that. Gabe Arnold and Rocco Welsh, they battled at who's number 1. Gabe Arnold was able to come away with a victory there, but Gabe Arnold misses weight at Ironman, setting up a rematch. Rocco Welsh goes on to win it. Braden Thompson from Illinois is number 3. Yeah, I mean, Rune is I being a returning state champion and being a POWERade runner-up, and you're like, how is he a 5th seed? But I'm not mad at where he's at, because I think that's probably where he should be. In you look at the rankings, because Danny Wask from Blair Academy, again a guy who is number 9 in the nation. I think he should be there, right? So Rune Lawrence, I think this could, he is going to be tested, and I can't wait, because we don't see that quite often. With him and Dayton Pitzer, these are 2 guys that I can't wait to see tested, because that's really where we're going to see the rubber meet the road, right? It's going to be a lot of fun here in this deep weight class. And that's not even to mention Kurt Thompson from Moeller, who's also here. Nolan Lear from Benton, who is currently number 1 in the state. And that's because Rune Lawrence we had him up at 189. Nolan Lear is a guy who's, again, been around forever. I think he's a guy who can knock off a few guys and maybe finish in the top 6, being from the 10th seed. And Matt Furman, again, a guy who just gets forgotten about a lot when we talk about Rocco Welsh and Rune Lawrence, right? But I was really impressed with the way Furman wrestled up at the King of the Mountain tournament. He beat a very tough Cole Bartram from Northern York. I'm excited to see how he finishes out, but this is by far the deepest weight class, the toughest weight class, when you look at 6 of the top 10 in the nation all competing at 172.
Yeah, very top heavy, without a doubt. When you look at some of the unseeded guys, Cole Bartram, one of those guys you mentioned, he's in this weight class from Northern York. What other guys unseeded could make some noise?
Yeah, so Bartram is definitely the guy who I'm looking for to make some noise. Isaiah Wright from Malvern Prep, another guy who I'm really excited about. He's been at Malvern for a long time. He's a football player and also a wrestler, but he's just a journeyman. He's been around for a long time. He knows how to win. He's in the Malvern Prep room, which means a whole lot. Kevin Oliverio from Manheim Township. If you remember him, he wrestled AHR in the first round of the Super Region last year. And he's from Puerto Rico. Has made a Pan Am cadet team. Really good in the freestyle and Greco scene. So I'm excited to see him compete here with some of the top guys in folk style. Also Garrett Tettenmer from Notre Dame Green Pond. Looking forward to seeing him compete, because we don't get to see a whole lot of District 11 wrestlers mix it up with some of these other guys from District 7 and 6. Christian Scheller from Mars. He's a guy I've been hearing good things about. Isaac Corey is he was a state medalist 2 years ago. Didn't have quite the season he wanted to last year, but he's back in action. He's going to be one of the guys who you're thinking, how was he not in the top 12 coming into this? But 72 is just, like I said, it's insane when you look at how much national and state talent is here. It's overwhelming.
189 pounds, Max Stout of Mount Lebanon, back from injury. He is the number 1 seed. Brian Finnerty of Thomas Jefferson, he gets a number 4. Gabe Stafford of Cannon McMillan, all the way up to 189. He's a number 7 seed. Patrick Cutchember of Quaker Valley, he is your number 8 seed. And that's all from a WPIAL. As far as Pennsylvania goes, you also throw in the mix Landon Caldwell from Sagertown. He is your number 6 seed. And Dan Church of Fort LaBeouf, he is your number 12.
Yeah, and when you look at this, Max Stout last year loses that match to Caden Rogers in the POWERade after just being completely dominant in his season thus far, then loses to Rogers and then gets a season-ending injury in his next match, and it's just, you hate to see it, right? Talk about one of the worst days that he's had is like you lose to Caden Rogers and then end up getting hurt for the rest of the season. This is his kind of coming out and redemption party for him. Max Stout is going to be tested, but he's still the favorite, right? Max Stout's still the favorite. He comes in ranked number 6 in the nation. Jude Carrera from Wyman Seminary, he's only a freshman, which is hard to believe, but he's only a freshman. He's going to be pretty good, and he's your 2nd seed. Andrew Connolly, another Malvern Prep guy, a senior this year, kind of is biding his time behind Jack Waymeyer and Caden Rogers. He's going to be in the mix as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up in the finals. Brian Finnerty is back in action for Thomas Jefferson again. Last year had a good season, was a state qualifier, hasn't quite gotten over that hump just yet. And Gabe Stafford, like you mentioned, up a bunch in weight, but he looks big. Patrick Cutchember is a guy who recently committed to Clarion, a football and wrestling guy. So, he's made the commitment to wrestle in college. So, I think he very well could wrestle above his seed as well. So, you look at the WPIAL, it's very impressive with obviously Max Stout and Gabe Stafford and Cutchember and Finnerty. But, there's a lot of other guys in here that I think can make some noise.
Who are some other unseeded guys that you're looking at?
So from across the state, I'm looking at a few guys. Dan Moore from Chestnut Ridge, George Schultz from Connellsville, Kellen Blasi from Erie Cathedral Prep, and Giuliano Marion from Franklin Regional had a good King of the Mountain tournament last week. He finished as the runner up there. Those are some of the guys I have circled as guys to keep an eye out on. But outside of that, Carter Weaveling from State College and Sebastian Robinson from Williamsport, 2 Northwest Regional guys that I think are going to be vying for a chance to finish, into the state tournament this year. So I think get to see them battle. And same with Damian Galentine from Central Mountain. He was a guy who last year came into the POWERade looking to do well. Cole Clark from Burrell, another guy who's been around forever, and Cade Werner from Bish McDevitt. These guys they're all in that tier of like regional qualifiers ready to burst out and become state qualifiers or even state medalists. So this is really where you prove that and you make your case that, yeah, I can be that guy.
215 pounds, Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant. He is your number 2 seed. Corey Borio of Latrobe, he's number 6. Carter Diltz of Kiski area, number 7. Eli Makel of Waynesburg, number 8. Josh Sarasnik of Chartiers Valley, he's number 10. All the other guys around PA, you had Nick Pavlichko of State College, number 11. Nathan Crispell of Benton, he is number 12. A lot of WPIAL guys here in this top 12. Dayton Pitzer, your number 2. He's probably thankful Nick Feldman, who had his number last year, is up the heavyweight, but he's got another guy in front of him here as he's the number 2 seed.
Yeah, so I mean, the story here is Pitzer's hasn't been tested since Nick Feldman. He has not been tested since POWERade finals last year. He rolled through the postseason in Pennsylvania. I mean, he dominated everybody. There was no question about if he was going to win. It was by how many points, right? This is,
or would he go 6 minutes?
Or will he go 6 minutes? Right. That's the other question. Him and TJ Stewart, while I do believe that's going to happen, that's going to be one heck of a match because TJ Stewart is a unconventional 215 pounder. He's much like what Dayton Pitzer. He's not nearly as tall as Dayton, but he's undersized for 215, right? He's wrestled 189, he's wrestled 195, he's wrestled, a variety of different weights, but he's one of the top wrestlers in the nation for a reason. He's number 5 in the nation currently right now out of Blair. Dayton Pitzer is number 7, so a top 10 matchup there. But Jack Dara is the guy from Wyman Seminary who could play spoiler to that, as he's number 10 in the nation currently. And Andrew Blackburn from Illinois is also a guy who comes in ranked number 13 in the nation. So you have 3 guys there, 4 guys in the top 4 that I think all can really, I think those are the top 4 hands down, right? But outside of that, you got a lot of guys that are going to be in the mix. Corey Barrero, Dilts as well. Eli Makel has had a great season thus far. He was a medalist at the Beast of the East. Sarasnik from Chartiers Valley, I was very impressed with this offseason. Nick Pavlichenko from State College, keep an eye on him. He was a runner-up to Austin Johnson from Muncie at the King of Mountain, but gave him a really good match. Pavlichenko is a guy who I know a lot of people are from the M2 and that area have been really excited about for a while. So keep an eye on him to potentially finish higher than his seed of number 11.
As far as unseeded guys, who sticks out at 215?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, as we get to the higher weights, there's some more guys. They thin out a little bit, but there's still definitely some guys that I'm looking for to do well. Kirk Bearjar from Forest Hills, a guy who's been under the radar and hasn't really wrestled a whole lot. Broxton Dean from Cannon Mac is a guy who I knew as a youth wrestler. He was really good at coming up in the youth ranks. Kind of stepped away from wrestling for a couple years. Now he's back. He's wrestling 215 for Cannon Mac. So I think he's probably going to have a good tournament, and this is a really good chance for him to see where he's at in the WPIAL, because he could get a chance to wrestle some guys in his section and in the district. Aiden Buggy, also a guy from North Allegheny who I think could do well here. But yeah, it's not nearly as deep as some of our other weights, but there's still a lot of talent, especially when you look at TJ Stewart and Dayton Pitzer. It doesn't get any better than that.
285 pounds for the WPIAL. You have Ty Banco of Trinity coming in at number 4. Noah Tustin of Waynesburg comes in as the number 6 seed. Also from the state of Pennsylvania, you have Leo Mizuka of Faith Christian. He comes in at number 5. Charles Cruz of Williamsport, he comes in at number 7. Tyrese Washington of Manheim Township, he comes in at number 10. But the story here goes to top seed Nick Feldman of Mount Vernon Prep.
Yeah, I mean, the question here is, this is the match everyone's been waiting for. My good friend John Foster, Big Man Breakdown himself, has been begging for a Nick Feldman Jimmy Mullen match, and he's finally going to get it. Nick Feldman, the pound for pound best wrestler in the nation by most publications, number 1 wrestler at 285 pounds, but Jimmy Mullen from St. Joseph Regional in New Jersey is your number 2 ranked wrestler in the nation. So yes, it really is a number 1 versus number 2 storyline. But the question for me is, can anyone keep pace with Nick Feldman? Like, how big is the gap? Because Nick Feldman has just been so good for so long that gap just gets bigger and bigger. I mean, he's wrestling in college opens and winning matches and beating really tough guys. He won the Ironman, with not ease, but he beat up Colby Franklin in the finals. And, that's the toughest tournament in the nation, right? So Nick Feldman, though, he is going to be tested by Jimmy Mullen, who's a big-time, wrestler and football player. He's one of those guys that was on the cadet world team for Team USA. He was a cadet world silver medalist. So another guy who has been on the world stage, has finished, high up on that podium at the world stage. He's going to get a chance to go toe-to-toe with one of the best in the nation of all classes, of all weight classes. And then you throw in Riley Robel from Bishop McDevitt, who's a junior, comes in to the POWERade tournament ranked number 13th in the nation. Bish McDevitt was in the state finals in football, I believe. They at least made a deep run. So Riley was out for a few weeks with wrestling as he was trying to come back. But he was a state runner-up last year. But then he avenged that loss that he had in the state finals to Nathan Taylor. He ended up beating him in the summer. So the guy is right there. He was on our Wranglemania Team PA up in New York at Journeyman, and he wrestled really well there. So I think, he's kind of the next tier. I think Feldman is one tier, Mullen is another, Riley Robel is another, and then it gets down to another with Banco, Mazuka, Noah Tustin, Charlie Cruz, all these guys that are kind of right there. Noah Tustin, he medaled at the Ironman, which was very impressive for a guy who's still getting used to wrestling heavyweight. And then you have DJ Mowring from Wyoming Seminary. He's a McKeesport product. He's going to be coming in looking to make a name for himself. One of a few wrestlers from Wyoming Seminary truly from Pennsylvania.
Any unseeded guys you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always some unseeded guys that I'm looking forward to. But most notably, Joe Ank from Penn Trafford. Penn Trafford, another team that they won a state title in football. Last year he had a good year, but I don't know how well he's gonna do transition into wrestling season this year. Like, I don't know how he's gonna be. But he had a good year last year, so if he can keep that rolling and going. Colton Hill from Laurel, another guy I'm keeping an eye on. Wyatt Held from Latrobe is a guy who has not wrestled very much at all, but seems to figured it out pretty easily and pretty quickly. He's wrestled really well this year, and could be potentially in the mix to finish in the top 8. There's heavyweights. Throw the rule books out the window because it doesn't matter at heavyweight.
No doubt about it. You look at the schedule coming up for POWERade. Mentioned wrestling gets underway Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. with the round of 64. And again, that round of 64, you lose, you are done for the day. There is not a first round consolation. Consolation start from the round of 32 going forward. There is a break in the middle of the afternoon, and wrestling gets back underway at 6 o'clock with fourth round consolations. Quarterfinals are set for 7:30 on Wednesday. Thursday, wrestling gets back underway at 9:30 a.m. with semifinals kicking off at 11 a.m. And then the consolation and championship finals wrestled together at 4 o'clock. So that's the schedule coming out for POWERade coming up again at Cannon McMillan High School on Wednesday and Thursday. Should be a lot of fun, Jeff.
I mean, it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a long 2 days, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're happy to be a part of it once again.
And as always, we'll recap it for you at the end of the next week. So we'll have the full recap of the tournament, as well as recap some other tournaments from around the Fitz Agostino tournament, as well as Southmoreland tournament. We got all that kind of stuff to recap for you here on WarUp on the WPIAL. Just looking forward to it. And hopefully next week, Jeff, we'll get a full show without any interruptions.
You better buy another hamster. That's what you need to do. You need to buy at least 3 more hamsters to start working on the wheel, because if that happens again, you're out, and we're gonna have to change the show to something else, because WarUp is based on Warnock and Upson, so you're gonna really screw up everything. So please get it figured out.
If I gotta buy something, is there a way we could talk about a raise then or something there, Jeff?
Yeah, we can talk about a raise. We can.
Oh, wow! Someone from promotion of possible raise. I mean, man, oh day.
Maybe.
How about this?
We'll see. We'll see how I feel after POWERade.
Well, everybody, we need you to subscribe to Rockfin and PA Power so Jeff feels really good, and then I can get my internet boosted up a little bit. It's a win-win-win-win, right?
It's wins all around, right? We're releasing updated state rankings tomorrow based on the weight class changes that we've seen in the last few days. So, yeah, it's a win-win-win all around. You subscribe to Rockfin, you get all kinds of content. So, yeah, it's a win.
Well, I want to thank you all for bearing with us through some of those technical difficulties. Really appreciate it. Look forward to catching up with many of you at the POWERade Wrestling Tournament. And outside of that, we'll look forward to talking to you next week on WarUp on WPIAL.